Welcome to The Lifestyle Chase, Season 2. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. I'm your host, Chris Little. Let's get started. The Lifestyle Chase is brought to you by Yeg Fitness. Yeg Fitness is Edmonton, Alberta, Canada's healthy lifestyle community, creating and supporting active living for all. Check them out online at yegfitness.ca and on social media at yegfitness. Today I interviewed Anthony Zorzetto. Now, he has battled addiction. He has had some tough times in his life. He's done cocaine. There's a lot about him. There's a lot that you can learn about him, and you can learn about him in other podcasts. So I encourage you to do a search, check it out, find all the different people who have interviewed him to learn more about his story. Because in this episode, we talked about connection, we talked about purpose, we talked about getting to know the story through somebody else's shoes. There was a ton of times when I would start off by asking him a question and then go off on a big long ramble. It was not the most focused conversation because it was very real, very honest, very raw, like no script, very little prep, and you just get to hear a conversation of what it would be like if we talked in real life. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening. All right, so welcome to episode 125 of The Lifestyle Chase. I'm joined by the one and only Anthony Zorzetto. Did I get your name right?
You did. You nailed it.
Yes!
Thank you.
So what was your day like today? Because I see your routine on Instagram. It's pretty, it's an ambitious routine. So I want to hear about it.
I get up pretty early, about 5. I don't even set an alarm anymore. My biological clock goes off. So between 5:30, I wake up, and I always make sure I clean the place, clean our house. I live in a condo. It's 1,200 square feet. So before anyone thinks I'm cleaning some kind of mansion or something, I'm not. But I get all my son's toys put away, dishes put away, all that kind of stuff. So when my girlfriend wakes up, it's a clean slate, and it also it helps me get my endorphins going right away. Like I get a task done, and I've noticed that's really important to me. So I'll do that, and then I do some kind of fitness. Either go for a run or. Since we're in quarantine, I can't go to or social distancing and stuff. I can't go to the gym. So I just do as many push-ups as I can. Body squats. I got some weights. I just do some form of exercise. And the night before, I almost always do a list of what I want to do the next day. So I revisit that list and make sure that I have my day planned out to execute for the day in terms of my business, which is in company. So usually I start off by going to a supplier or something like that and making sure the guys have all their tools.
I like that. You talk about your business and what you do now. So expand on that a little bit. What's the project that you're the most proud of in the year 2020?
2020 would be a hair salon we just did. It's called Soho. It's just it's by Harry Ainley High School, Southgate Mall, that area. And we made that place night and day. It was really cool. We had 3 weeks to do it. It was over Christmas and over New Year. So technically it's 2019 going to 2020, but you get my drift. Super tight deadline. It was just executed perfectly. It was awesome. And these guys that own it, Carol and Gray, their baby. Like they've had Soho for 13, 14 years, something like that. And they're finally did a renovation, and it meant the world to them. So to see their reaction when it was all done and work with them during the process and also learning that the decor they picked, it was kind of a 17th century, 18th century Paris. I didn't know this, but their family's from Paris, and it was very sentimental to have this really nice crown molding and wall sconces and paneling and wainscoting and all that kind of stuff. I had no idea that it meant so much to them during construction. Then they only told me after that we picked this crown molding because it was, something about her dad, something about her grandpa. I'm like, oh wow, that's super cool. So that's been the highlight so far. We booked a couple large jobs that would have been going right now, but COVID hit, so they got pushed off.
When it comes
So,
down to taking on jobs like that, like there would have been a time when maybe you couldn't see yourself doing a job like that. What was it like to think that thought and then think about how you're taking on the big projects now, like that perspective shift? What is that like for you?
oh, it's been the world to me. I know we discussed earlier, and sure people listening have heard my story about being addicted to alcohol and drugs and being homeless, and I couldn't even picture being in a warm place a lot of times, and to be where I am now is just like incredible. And that mind shift is something that I've really harnessed and been able to use moving forward. So picturing these big jobs and actually getting these big jobs are, it's kind of like some days it's not a surprise to me, and that's not being cocky or anything like that. It's just I realize that if you can visualize properly, you can like wield these things and make sure it happens. And then other days I'm like, oh my god, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I can't believe I'm here. Like, just a good example, the other day it was raining, like it seems to be every day here right now. And I was pulling a tarp over some work we just did, and I remember I grabbed the tarp and I'm looking at this tarp. I'm like, I used to sleep under this thing, and now I'm covering this work that we're doing right now to protect it from the elements. And it's just super cool to have that perspective change. It's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, when people are looking to see what your story is like, the podcast I would send them to would be Second Floor. I really liked how that story was told, and it got me thinking about the number of times in life when the odds are against us, or perhaps we don't realize that maybe we don't even have it that bad, and we just need to pull up our socks. Like there's so much perspective going on in the world. Um, with that being said, something that I want to ask is like when you've been waking up and cleaning your house, in the last couple of weeks, has there been a day when you've just been like, "F this, I'm not cleaning my house today"?
Oh yeah, yeah, it happens. Especially if I started running. And I've traditionally always worked out like a bodybuilder, like that kind of style, no fast twitch, very slow movement, and just trying to build muscle. And since I've been running at night, I've been running like more to get in shape for sure, but mostly the mental challenge of it. See if I could push myself a kilometer a day type of thing, like more and more and more. And so when I wake up, since I'm not used to it, I'm like super sore. And it's at those times I'm like, oh, I don't want to, like, what's the point? I have a 2 year old. He's going to destroy the house anyways. So what's the point? And I did once not clean, and it ruined my whole day, to be honest. Like, in the back of my mind, I knew that I left the house messy, like his toys everywhere. And one could say just clean up during the night, but I like leaving it to start with in the day. And yeah, I get those days all the time where I'm like, F this, I don't want to do it. But since I learned my lesson the day I didn't do it, I felt like shit all day. So now, even if I have those feelings, I just do it. And that goes with everything. Like, I want to sometimes, it's super hot out. Like the other day, it was super hot out, and the patios are starting to open and stuff. And I'm like, oh, if I just had one beer, it would be fine. Like, that's a big trigger for me. It's like a hot day, patio, looking at the fuzz at the top of a beer and pour it into a pint. Like, it's just so sexy, and it looks refreshing and stuff like that. But I know if I went that way, it would just be a nightmare for me and everybody around me. So I don't do it. So back to your point, I always do it, even if I don't feel like doing it, and I know I should. I do it because it's worth it and it's not I'm not if I'm not like incapacitated, then it's all mental. And I've learned that. So if my legs are broken or something like that, knock on wood, and I can't get up and clean the house, and that's one thing. But that's not the case. So it's just mental. So I just get it out of the way and do it, and then I feel better after every time.
Well, I think that's a good piece to talk about because I mean, I've talked to a lot of different people and we all have our own struggles. We all have things that it looks like we have no trouble doing, but it takes a lot of trouble to do them. Like, there's trainers out there that don't feel like doing their own home workouts. Like, for me, I have to break up my own workouts into parts of the day, like, do little, like, 10-minute segments. And, like, I'm in the fitness space and so you would think that it would be easy, but it's not easy. It's just like you have to find your ways and like so many different things that when we talk about it and we put it on the platform, it almost empowers it to come easier to other people because then they know that they're not in it all by themselves, that they know that they have other people that like we're all flawed. We all have things that we need to work on every single day. But it's about like kind of leaning into it. I mean, everything going on in the world, like my heart is pretty heavy for just how racist civilization tends to be. Like
Yeah.
everybody has something to work on. And so we talk about cleaning. That can be our best example in the fact that like sometimes we don't want to clean. Sometimes our day isn't laid out to clean, but we gotta clean because it gives us that purpose of clarity and it allows us to be at our best self. Like when we work at elevating our peers, it allows us to learn more. It allows us to make those cool business connections. Like you talked about the that client that you took such pride in, and just those little things that really matter to them. And yeah, like when we learn the little things that really matter to people, like when I follow Kenny on Instagram and I learn the little things that matter to him,
Yep.
it makes him more important to me. I'm like, oh yeah, like when I learn what martial arts is for him, then I'm like, yeah, this dude is awesome. When I learn what construction is for you and what you face, I'm like, yeah, like this dude is awesome. I'm curious when it comes to that, what would you say your biggest purpose is? Like why do you do your business so passionately? Like what is it that sparks the fire within you to do what you do? If you could share that with me.
Well, for construction, the reason why I'm in it is it started off with my family, like all my family on both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side. They were all in construction, and I listened to them as a kids as when I was a kid rather, how passionately they talked about construction in every capacity, the business end of it, the tangible part of it, like the actual building and the relationships with people. And there's a meme that's, I don't know if it's around your feed, but it's certainly around my feed. And they're driving and it says, "Oh, I built that house," or "I worked on this place," and then the caption is "every tradesperson ever." And it's super true. Like I'll drive past a strip or did a renovation and I'm like, "Oh, we renovated that," and I say it with such pride, and everybody else is not in it. It's kind of like, "Yeah, we get it, man. I know." um, but there's something about it that really strikes a chord in a good way, and it's being able to see what you've done at the end of the day, something tangible, and it's very physical. It's hard to do. Your endorphins are up, your dopamine is up, and um, for my construction company, that's kind of why I do it in that capacity. And then the reason why I own the business is I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and there's no ceiling on being an entrepreneur. Like you're not. I'm not working up a corporate ladder to get to a certain height. I'm growing this business, and this business is a part of me, and there's no ceiling on me, and there's no restrictions. Um, and that is just everything to me. I've always been like that. And then in a personal way, like you may see on Instagram, I'm posting about addiction, I'm posting about mindset and achieving goals and stuff like that. And the reason I do that, my purpose for that is to show and just giving back as best as I can, and hopefully I can stoke a fire in even just one person, and that's the only reason why I do it.
Well, I mean, I like that answer, and it gets me kind of thinking about like connection with your work, connection with well, mostly just your work. It's like you are finding such pride in the projects that you do, and you talked about the meme and driving around town, and every construction worker, every contractor is seeing their work, and like I experience the same thing. I drive around town. I go by KB and Co. and I'm like, yes, I interviewed her. I go by Love Pizza. I interviewed them. It's just like, and like everybody has some variation of the same thing, whether it's realtors that sold houses, you and your construction work, me and clients that have trained, people I've talked to, or it could be people in like past relationships that are healthy and past relationships that aren't healthy. And it's just like the more connection we find in our life, the more value we get from the things around us. And I guess I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent, but outside of construction, what are things that you genuinely find connection in? Like, what are things that light your fire?
Um, I really, really, really like seeing people succeed. That's probably one of my favorite. Obviously, besides my family, like my making sure my son is healthy and happy and has everything he needs and all that kind of stuff is priority number one. Um, and that gets me going every day as well, right? But seeing other people succeed, um, I really like kind of mental warfare on myself and watching um, other people overcome those types of things. Like I see someone run an ultra marathon and I'm like, oh my, and watching people succeed in that capacity, watching entrepreneurs start their business and their business takes off and they're giving back. Like you mentioned, KB and Co. I've been following her for a while, and I think she's just a great entrepreneur as well. And I really like seeing people tag her in things and show like the food she's making and all that kind of stuff. And like that really has a strong connection with me. Like people succeeding is just awesome.
So, if I was to challenge you a bit, like, what is it about seeing people succeed that you feel brings you the most joy? I'm on the same page. I completely agree with you, but I want to hear your words as to what is it about seeing people win that makes you like, this is awesome? Because it's like, got nothing to do with you, but yet you're getting joy from seeing somebody else win.
I think it's because I've I've hit rock bottom before and I got out of it and I'm successful now. And I know that these people who are succeeding, they're not just handed anything. They're overcoming obstacles, and it makes me very proud, even though I don't know them. It makes me very proud to see that they can overcome these things. And then it's also a beacon of hope for other people. So it's just, to me, it's just one more step for everybody to see that it can be done. It honestly, it's kind of like a drug or something. It's like I hit a dopamine that I'm craving in the best way. Um, I think that's it. You know, like I said, just people overcoming obstacles and doing it with a smile on their face. That's not real all the time. Always going to have a smile on their face when overcoming things, but the fact that they are overcoming them and they're taking a risk and they're not listening to go get that safe job, and they're not, listening to their friends and families and coworkers saying, you can't do this and all that kind of stuff. And they're just doing it anyways. And it just like, it excites me. It excites me, and that's kind of the best way I can describe it. But the feeling inside of me is like that moment right before you go down like a roller coaster or something like that. When I see somebody put on Instagram or on Facebook, like, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a company. It's going to be called, let's go back to KB and Co." And then you see her now; she's opening like I think her fourth store, or maybe more. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
she just keeps going. Like I think there's probably some stuff we don't even know about that she's opening up, but she is kicking ass.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like that. That's so awesome. That you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's incredible. And seeing people who kick an addiction. I know a couple of guys that were in the same boat as me, and they're successful now, and they're healthy, and they got a family, and they'll never go back to it. And it's just like, oh, I'm just so happy for them, and it's it's contagious. Like I could just go talk about it forever.
Oh, totally. And when you brought up like knowing other people that kind of have been through the same stuff, that is powerful. Like that is important. Like that's something that me as a personal trainer needs to advocate for. Like we can go to the gym all day, but if we don't have a buddy that's gonna be doing following the same path, like you don't have to be in the gym at the same time. You kind of have to have like the same values, same priorities. You got to be able to have the tough conversations. Like when you have a tough day, you need to have somebody to be like, hey man, I had a tough day, I need to get real with you. Like that is a valuable aspect to any journey, whether it be your business or your personal life or your fitness or anything. You got to have people that make you feel less alone, especially in these social distance times when
Yep.
everybody kind of feels alone in some way. Like the more that you can see yourself in other people, regardless, like seeing yourself through your spirit, through your essence, through the things that you're passionate about, like everybody can relate to the topic of fitness, like in some way. It's gonna look like Zumba for one person, powerlifting for the other, but we all enjoy the endorphins. We all enjoy feeling strong. We all enjoy a boost in confidence. And so we can connect in that way. And that allows people from all different religious backgrounds, cultural identities, just appearances. It allows us all to be in the same boat. And
Yep.
then it just opens up your world to like so much more knowledge. It's like you talk about people winning. Well, everybody, like I love watching Second Floor continue to like pivot through things. Like all
Yep.
of a sudden I see, oh, they got like content creators. Oh, that's freaking sweet. That's a good idea. I love that. Or I see like they interviewed somebody that spoke to a very specific topic, and I'm like, I too am passionate about that topic. I'm glad that they discussed it. Like seeing the immense diversity in their guest lists, like that's something that I strive for. But I think they're always going to outdo me on that simply based on the hosts. Like they are culturally diverse, and so it's cool to elevate others. Like for me, I'm like, hell yeah, I will promote them like 12 more times in this podcast episode. And maybe some of my listeners will go to them and I will not lose a thing. It's totally fine with me. We all rise together. It helps to elevate my listeners, their listeners, your people, my people. It's freaking awesome.
Yep.
Um, Having gone on that tangent, I'm going to challenge you again. You're in the construction industry. You must have competitors. Who's a competitor that you learn from? Like, who kind of like does the exact same jobs, and sometimes you're battling for a quote, but despite it all, you're learning from them.
Um, you know what? To be completely honest, I this may sound cheesy, but I we just focus on ourselves. We don't really focus on what other companies are doing because it's more or less construction is like you can't put your roof on before you put the walls up. Like it's kind of yeah, things are more or less the same. There's a couple items you can do first, a couple items some people do it first, some people do it later, whatever. But we just focus on our customer experience, getting a good review, and growing ourselves and being better than we were yesterday. We really take that philosophy and run with it. But what I do is I look up to larger corporations, like where I want to go, not to companies who are like, beside me, if you will. But I really look up to like Clark Builders. That's who I started with. I got my apprenticeship through them. And even though they do, $1 billion a year, maybe more now actually, uh, they've always had a really, really good corporate culture. And I've always respected that. Like I very much felt like I was part of some kind of family there. And the CEO at the time, Paul Verhessen, was very, and I've always, and now the current CEO and president, Andrew Ross, is same kind of deal. He's a younger guy. He's not like this old, like the massive construction companies and stuff like that. They have like these old school guys that are, you know, just old school and finger off the pulse. And a lot of times they're a bunch of assholes. And, I've never been about that life. I don't like that part of the industry and stuff. And Clark Builders did a really good job of bringing construction to 2020, in like mental capacity and as well as the building. So yeah, I look up to them. But as far as people that I compete with, I know I bid against a lot of companies. If I get them, great. If not, we ask what we can do better. A lot of times it comes down to a price difference, but I, um, but besides that, I don't really look at what other companies are doing too much.
Well, I mean, you answered that really well, and it got me thinking about how I can relate to you with personal training. Like, if you're a personal training, if you're a personal trainer listening to this, the best thing to focus on is yourself. Like, focusing on your client's experience, because doesn't matter what Joe Blow across the street is doing with their client, it's not going to help or hinder your experience with your client. And so, when you really clarified there about like, yeah, like you're not gonna really worry about whether you got the job or not. But if you get a job, you're gonna prove to that client why they chose you, and show your value in like how you show up to your day as a human, and how you treat people, and like the little things that you notice. And I think that's great qualities which anybody can adopt in their career or whatever they're doing day to day. Having said that, you talked about the value system and stuff like that. So like let's dive into values. What are your core values? Like if you could list off four of them, and this is you as a person, but also you as things that you want to always hold true in anything that you do, be it your business, your speaking, anything like that.
Honesty, honesty would be number one. Always be honest about your wins and your losses. I always have a thing where I don't want to look like what I'm achieving is impossible to someone. The whole reason why I'm doing it is to show that it is possible. So I don't want to inflate how my Instagram looks or whatever. I'm very honest about like, I used to sleep under a tarp. I was addicted to drugs. I was addicted to alcohol. Um, I, I didn't eat good and all that kind of stuff. I'm very honest about all that stuff. So just being transparent. And then giving without the expectation of receiving, that'd be good value for me. If I'm going to do something for free for somebody, I don't expect anything back. I'm not going to hold anything over your head. That's not the way to live. If you are doing someone a favor, you're doing them a favor in the true sense of the meaning. Like, it's like, this is free, take it, whatever. I don't expect anything back. And you don't want to make them feel that big because you've helped them out. It's not how it works. The other one would be if you're, more for the business side of it, if you're something, I want to, knock it out of the park. So not just do what I was hired to do, but I want to do a little bit extra, like put the cherry on top. That's really important for me. I think that goes a long way, and people talk about that, and that's just kind of free advertising, if you will. If you go that extra mile, people are going to talk about it. Um, what would the other one would be, I think, try not to be a hypocrite. uh, it's it's easy to say something. It's harder to do it. And I try to, I can be a little tough love, like a lot of the times, especially with people that are close to me. I, I don't know why. I'm just like that. I'm just very straight up, black and white when it comes to like, if you want to achieve a goal and you're not doing the things to get closer to that, it frustrates me. Uh, because, you know, I love them and I want them to succeed. But I'm not going to give them shit for something I can't do myself. Like if someone's trying to lose weight, but they're not willing to go for a run, and I'm not willing to go for a run, I'm not going to say anything. I can't. You know, who am I to say that, right? So, yeah, those would be the four cores that are closest to me, I would say.
Yeah, those were good. And the whole like the topic of hypocrite or hypocrisy or whatever, however we want to describe it, is important to kind of put on the stage here. Is like I think about that often. I think about like, okay, I just gave my client a really tough workout. Is that a workout I would do myself? And if it's not, then I have to not give them that workout. And like sometimes just talking about things that I know nothing about, like there's tons of topics. Like I could talk about what kind of training I think that a female needs, or I could just ask a female and then they can tell me what kind of training a female needs. And same thing with any issues where we seek perspective and we're looking for that closure by talking about it. Sometimes, like I had a chat with Katie St. Clair. She's a popular trainer slash seminar speaker out of the States. And
Mm-hmm.
she gave me some pretty humbling advice, which I just had to kind of like sit in. And it was simply that, like, as dudes, we like to fix, we like to give people solutions, we like to give them advice, we like to prescribe them things that they can do to solve the things that they're facing. And yeah, I can admit it. Like I do that all the time. Like somebody's coming across hard times and I'm just in there to try and help them out. But sometimes I have to be a better listener. Sometimes I just need to understand what they're going through. Sometimes I need to just get to know them a bit better, which is what I love about being a podcast host, because I get to really rep it out with getting to know people better. Like, let's say the first episode I ever did, I could have gotten to know Blake better. And then with this one, maybe I'm a little bit better at getting to know you than I was at getting to know my friend Blake. And
Yep.
then episode 200, I'll probably be even better at getting to know people, but I'm still going to have flaws. I'm still going to mess up some stuff. I'm going to still stumble on my words. I'm going to still preach about things that I don't quite do myself. Like when we talk about confidence, probably tons of times when we haven't felt confidence, or when we talk about going for runs, all kinds of times when we don't even go for runs. Like we were like, oh yeah, I go for a run every day. Like, and then there's instances where that day turned out to be a really shit day, and then the run never happened. Like I can say that from my own experience. I did the push-ups every day for 100 days, and I actually did the
Yeah,
push-ups
I saw
every
that.
day. But it was like there was tons of days when I did the push-ups at like 11:55 just to get it in. Like I didn't wake up feeling 100% like I'm gonna just do these push-ups, but I still did them, but like barely. The only thing that was making me do them was honestly social media. And it's because like we all go through our ups and downs, but talking about them makes it so much easier to do it, because then we're equipping people around us to be able to help us out. So like the better that you and I get to know each other, the better that we are equipped to help each other out. Like when you're like, oh man, I clean most days, like every day, but that one day I didn't clean and I felt like garbage. And then chances are you'll have another garbage day when you don't feel like cleaning, and you might not feel like cleaning even more than you did before. But now you got buddies all over the internet. They're like, you know what? Sometimes I feel like that too. And you know what I do? I blast some Miley Cyrus, and I come in there like a wrecking ball, and that's what does it. Like just
Yeah,
little things like that.
yeah.
So I kind of got on a bit of a soapbox there, but I hope that listeners of this take time to get to know other people, take time to just be really honest about like we suck at stuff. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that we are just falling behind on. And it's okay to just be honest and be like, yeah, I wish I was just crushing it. I wish I made like $500,000 a year, but like sometimes I don't. And sometimes, like, something that I admire about you is the times that you've been able to be very honest about, like, yeah, like you were facing foreclosure. There was having to sleep outside. There was times when you kind of like fell into your weaknesses, just like we all do. Just like people go to the gym for 2 months and then they don't go to the gym for a few months. People struggle with alcohol and drugs, then they don't, and then they struggle again, then they don't. Like it's anybody that smokes, anybody that I've talked to that smokes, it's such a battle, and like they need all the help that they can get because it's like it's not a motivational thing. It's like so much deeper than that. Like I had a chat with my brother and just to understand what it's like to try and quit smoking because I've never smoked because I would hate to have to go through what people who are trying to quit smoking have to go through. And just understanding that it takes good listeners, it takes patience, it takes compassion, and we can always improve. Our shit, our shit does stink. We can't walk around thinking that our shit doesn't stink. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, just being a good human. But with all of that
for
being
sure.
said, you're passionate about public speaking. Where has you felt have you felt the most purpose in your public speaking events so far? Like what's a little moment that like stands out to you that kind of like pings your memory?
Uh, Talking to some grade 9 students at my old high school, actually, the high school I got expelled from. That was really good. I'm trying to remember back when I was in grade 9 and we had speakers come in and talk and some of them being professional athletes. And those were the ones that you kind of listen to was the professional athletes because they're bigger than you and they're stronger and they look kind of flashy and all that kind of stuff. And then everybody else was just kind of, it was just whatever. We were just in a gym assembly and we just wanted to hang out with our crush of the week or whatever, right? It was get out of the class. But when I spoke to these grade 9s, was very real. I asked permission from the teacher first thing if I could swear, like if I could be myself, and she's like, "Yeah, it's gonna get your message across, and let's do it, right?" And I'll never forget standing there and telling them my story, and I had everyone. I looked around, and all eyes were on me, and not that that mattered, but what I mean is they were listening and they were taking it in, and I had their full focus, and at that moment, I kind of took a picture and kept it saved in my brain. That I think I really resonated with these students and continued my story and told them where I am now. And they hung around just bounce and leave to recess when the bell rang. They stayed around and they were asking me questions. They lined up and uh, a couple of people took me aside privately and you could tell they were about to get emotional and it was very real and they were telling me that their older brother does drugs and they don't know how to talk to him and their mom used to do drugs and they're afraid all the time that she's going to do drugs again and I could just shed some light on that and give them advice and uh that was a really really special event for me which was really 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 cool and I put my name up on Instagram like that my at Mr. Zorzetto and they all followed me right away and they still follow me and they message me and I message them back and it was that was for sure and I've spoken several events now and like a few hundred people and I love that and I love the kind of adrenaline going up almost like you're going to perform but you're giving such a valuable lesson that means the world to me. But these grade 9s like was probably my favorite because you kind of get them while they're young. You know what I mean? And for me, part of my story, grade 9 was a massive shift for me. That's when I started to have the allure of hanging out with like the bad crowd and all that kind of stuff. So it was important to me. And at at ground zero too. That was a high school that I got expelled at. So it meant that much more to me. So
Well, you brought up the expression like get them while they're young. And I remember all the motivational speeches that happened at my high school, junior high. Like I went to a small rural junior senior high school out at Pigeon Lake. And I loved the motivational speeches. And I was the guy that like it didn't matter if they were the athlete or just the random person that had a story to tell. I was all ears. And yeah, my brain was like, okay, who do we have a crush on this week? Let's see if we can sit next to them kind of thing. Like that was where my brain was at too. But I think like it's just the more life experiences we have where we can put ourselves in the shoe of the speaker, the more we value the speaker. And the timing was probably incredible. Yeah, you were probably talking to a lot of kids who either were just about to decide to take a non-wise path in their life, or maybe they knew someone really close to them that had already done it, and so like you would have definitely captivated them with that. Um, this is like the crazy thing reflecting on this is because you've been on so many different podcast episodes, it influences how I interview you because I know that you put in the reps with answering questions. And I know that if I answer one question that you're used to answering, I'm not going to get everything that I can possibly get from you as my guest. And so then it
yeah,
challenges me to ask questions in ways that I've never asked questions before. It challenges me to get off of my template. And so in a way, because we have made this connection today, and it's going to sound super hippy dippy, but because we are having this conversation, we will walk away from it better. Because as a kid in my youth, I had little like micro experiences in which I could relate to different speakers. Like I had never been in the military, but I could relate to the military speakers who came to talk about joining the Canadian Armed Forces because like honestly for me it's because I knew that I had family that had served in the military and I was okay. I never got to meet that family, like they were grandpas or great grandpas, but like I can only imagine the pain that they had to go through, having to be at a young time in their life facing death. Like I'm gonna be a captive audience for this person because I can understand and like the stuff going on in the world, like when you have to watch a black person losing their life and you might not be able to understand their pain firsthand, but you can kind of put yourself in their shoes because like I got a lot of black friends. I'm sure you got a lot of black friends, and it's like you switch the person out of that role, and it's like, oh, like we could have lost like a best friend, we could have lost like a mentor, we could have lost like a CEO of a company that we love, and it can continue to happen and it's like it's a real problem. So that's I guess why it becomes a pivotal point here, because when I teach people to connect more with more people and to see themselves in more people, and that can be completely non-race, that can be completely just business, that can be money, but like you talk about what you admire in the big companies above you and you articulate it through their company culture, and it helps you to see yourself in their position of success. And I like that. And then in terms of like speaking events, it's just like, yeah, they were captivated. They were invested in you because they saw something in them, in you. And whether it's timing, whether it's like where a person is at in their life, or whether it's like how you show up, I think like it's uncomfortable to be yourself in this world, you know? Like on social
yeah,
media, really uncomfortable. If we are really honest with the things that truly, truly, truly matter to us, we're not going to win a popularity contest. Like we're not. There's going to be people who think it's uncomfortable when they see that we had a bad day. Like you probably, what gets more likes on your Instagram when something goes really well for you and you're like chase your dreams, or when you had a really bad day and it's kind of just a sad post? Like for you, what does it
Yeah.
break down to?
Uh, the success for sure. The good days. Because my theory would be because it everyone likes hope and they want to cling on to hope. Um, so I think that's probably why those get more likes, and it's kind of like uh, something that's they want to attain. So they like it. Or if I kind of say like, oh, I had a bad day today and all that kind of stuff, I think a lot of people would be like, especially a lot of people on my friends list, and would just be like, stop being a little bitch. You know what I
Well,
mean? And on or whatever, right? They don't. It doesn't get. It doesn't get as much traction and kind of respect. But we should be talking about the real days when people have bad days and stuff like that. And unfortunately, it's just not talked about as much as the success is talked about.
well, I mean, we can even loop it around. We both talked about how we love seeing people win, how we get like a boost off of seeing people win. And that explains it right
Yep.
there. We admitted it. We admitted it on the podcast. It's recorded. It's on the internet forever. That we literally like seeing people win. Like new
Yep.
KB and Co. We're gonna like it. If say Christina Botello had a really bad day and needed a friend to talk to, like people are going to be there. They're going to be a captive audience. But
Yep.
just anybody, I'll use anybody as an example. If one of our buddies won $1 million, we get excited and then we want to be involved in that, not because we want their money, but because vicariously we're living through the experience of what that would do to change their life. Um,
Yeah.
how much win that would amount to. But then if somebody was like, I just need to be real here and honest about something that I'm going through, then all of a sudden we kind of subliminally cringe. We're like, that's uncomfortable. And you just kind of scroll past. And
Yeah.
so, in some way, shape, or form, we either have to learn to lean into the uncomfort. Like I did the cringing, I have to cringe for a bit longer and then like withstand that. It's kind of like when you do your run. You get in like 2 kilometers into a run for me. I hate it. Like I don't want to run any more than 2 kilometers, but the objective is to run like 5 or 6. And so I have to get past the point where I hate it and keep going. And then with these uncomfortable moments when we're seeing something and we're cringing on social media or just in life, we kind of have to like embrace it and be like, look, this freaking sucks. But sometimes life sucks. Sometimes life knocks you on your butt. And you have to find the way to sustain that uncomfortable feeling. For me, it's like going off my template, all the questions that I usually ask. I haven't asked you what's like you did in high school 10 years ago. Like there's so many questions that I ask other people because I'm talking about the things that I almost need to talk about in order to move the wheel. And and then I sustain that. I'm like, okay, I started off some of my tangents and totally changed the topic, but I'm like, I need to move the wheel. I need to impact change. I need to facilitate people to be able to do things like be there as a listener when people do the cringe posts, or be there as someone that shows compassion when it's somebody totally unrelated to me, as like the speaker at an event or the speaker in a video, and understand how how can I possibly put myself in their shoes and understand where they're coming from. Like how can I be better at that? And it's like it's a work in progress in all different aspects of life. And then finally, before I finish off this tangent, when we talk about how we kind of scroll past, or like you talk about your buddies and like, come on, man, like tough up, like quit being such a big baby. Sometimes that's just going to be like there's no fixing it. People are just going to scroll past, and then so we have to talk about like how do we seek out that one-on-one connection. Like I think it's cool because as your Instagram account has grown, like I think you and I were connected when you probably had 1,000 followers, and now you have much more than 1,000 followers. But we've always had that connection because of that mutual want to see people win, and in our own walks of life, seeing each other win has kept us connected. Like that's my biased opinion. That's what makes me follow you, because you're facing your demons, you're battling, you're doing your best job of the job that you're passionate about. I'm doing the best job of the job that I'm passionate about. We both fall down, we both get back up. But right now we're having that one-on-one connection. And so people need to be like, some people don't have the tools in their toolkit to like seek this out. Like some
That's right.
people really truly are on their own. They don't have like a one-on-one conversation where they can just like go off script, talk with a buddy, and just like say, hey man, like I'm really passionate about purpose, or I'm really passionate about seeing people win, or like when this happens I get really sad. Like the more we can just truly honestly talk, because some people, their most of their communication happens through the highlight reel. Like the context is still the highlight reel. Like I'll check on a trainer and I'll be like, hey, how are you doing? Like, how are you doing? Because trainers, they are so used to connecting with people all the time, and like in-person
Yep.
connection. And your average trainer might, like, it can range between 3 different people a day. Some people are seeing like 50 different people a day if they're doing group classes and stuff. That's a lot of people.
Yep.
And then you just totally
Yep.
cut that off, and they're gonna inevitably, no matter how strong they are, no matter how good their Instagram photography looks, they're gonna be going through a mental health roller coaster. But then when you check on them and they aren't honest about that, when they're not like, hey, I had like an awful day, then that doesn't open up the platform to be real with each other. So they have to do that cringe thing so that you can do the cringe thing with them, listen to them, talk about how maybe they're uncomfortable. Like some trainers might be suffering from addiction. Some trainers might be suffering from weight gain because like they're falling into their old patterns. They have stuff that wasn't there. They're not cleaning their house. And so I guess to wrap up the tangent is basically, I hope that you are able to continue inspiring people to see themselves in you and connect and stuff like that. Um, I'm going to ask a final question for you. And it
Sure.
is, if you could give one piece of advice on how to live your life to the fullest, what would that piece of advice be?
It's cliche, but be better than you were yesterday. That that's something I've only recently uh, appointed to myself, because I used to always compare all the time. And, I think it's important to compare certain things. Like if you're struggling, if I'm struggling, I'll compare myself to someone who's struggling even more and be like, you know what? I don't have it that bad. I'm blessed. In that regard, I'll compare, but the only, I have to live with me, and I'm myself. So if I want to get better, I have to be better than I was yesterday. And then that's the only way you're going to move forward. If I compare myself to like Dwayne Johnson, let's say, it's going to feel so unattainable that, I may just like, fuck it. I'm never going to clean again, or I'm never going to work out again. I'm not going to get as jacked and popular and famous and rich as that guy. You know what I mean? But if I focus on myself, I'm going to put out the best content. I'm going to put out the best craftsmanship in my job and with my business, and I'm going to have the best relationships. And that's the only way that you're going to get better at anything.
I love that. That's awesome. One last final question, just because I like asking questions, and I kind of took over the podcast for a little bit there.
All good, man. I like it. I
In
like
the
it a lot.
last 7 days, what is something that brought you the most joy, like honest to goodness, like genuinely made you the most happiest?
Uh, well, there's a couple things. Completing my runs that I said I was going to complete. I'm doing 6K a day, and 2 kilometers of which are super steep hill. And just completing that, and posting the DMs after saying like, hey, I was gonna just chill tonight, but I decided to go for a run because you went for a run or whatever. Like that means a lot to me, and that makes me really, really happy. Um, and of the other, in the last 7 days, the other thing too is playing hockey with my son.
There we go.
He's
Yeah.
two. Yeah, he's 2 years old, and I have this hockey set for him, and he loves hockey so much. Like I swear to God, I never did. Like I'm not like hypnotizing him or anything because I'm a huge hockey fan, but he just loves hockey so much, and we drill. He just wants to drill. Like like I'll set up this little net. It's like, you know, 30 inches by 24 inches, and I throw the ball in. I'm like one timer, and he one times it, scores a goal, and he goes goal. And I'll say hold the Stanley Cup, and he holds the pretends to hold the Stanley Cup, and like that's just the best thing in the world. And it's cool to see a sport, and have like those motor skills and like get a goal and celebrate that goal, and it's super cool. That's definitely brought me the most joy for sure.
Well, I'm glad that you showcased that. I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of it all the time, we forget that people aren't motivated by what we say. They're motivated that we are saying it. So like doesn't matter, like to me, it doesn't matter that you went for a run. It matters that you are going for the run. Like if that makes sense. Like anybody
Yeah,
can go
I
for a
understand.
6K, but then it's the fact that you, the guy that I know a little bit about, the guy that like so when I was listening to your episode on Second Floor podcast, when I listened to that, I had like a rough week. I was like, man, I am just burnt out. I just need some mountains. I need some clarity. I need to sit by myself. I need to stay at one of those nice lodges in Canmore and feel bougie for a bit. And the whole drive there, I was listening to the podcast, and it was like when I got to know more about who you were at the core, and like when I got to hear you talking about some of your weaknesses in full knowledge that like your family was going to hear some of that stuff for the first time, hearing about the trip that you were all supposed to go to and you made that not work out last minute, like little things like that made me way more invested in you than any amount of kilometers that you run, any business deal that you sign, any big amount of like whether your title be CEO or janitor, it's like who you are that made me invest in you. And so hopefully any personal trainers that take advice from this, it's like it's not what you do, it's like who you are. It's not what your title is, it's not the amount of money that you make. Like a lot of personal trainers, because of what it is, like people are paying a premium per hour for our time. We're going to be working with a lot of like very successful individuals, people that are at the top of their game, people that make quite a bit of money. And time again, I've been told it's like money makes no difference. So it's like that purpose. And that's what I really liked, that you have so much purpose in what you do and you get joy from seeing other people win. But I guess I just wanted to make sure that you knew that like sometimes if you don't want to go for a run, I'll still be a fan. I'll still be your homeboy because there's so many other things to you
Appreciate
that
that.
like make you who you are. And so hopefully people that are going through tough stuff, people that needed to hear that, they have that in their toolbox now to understand like it's if you because I learned so much about Ramadan through Instagram this year, so much more than I have ever known before, simply from watching like the kids talk about it and seeing like the posts and the story. And I was like, I love this. Like I didn't understand nearly this much about it before, and I love the feeling of understanding what the whole process means. It's just like sharing what it meant to play hockey with your boy. Like when I understand what it meant, then the fact that you did it, like I can relate to that joy because you're able to articulate that back to me. But having said that, we'll wrap it up for the day. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me and encourage people to check out your story of addiction in numerous different podcasts. But yeah, like you're a cool dude. So thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you so much. You're great. I gotta say, man, you're an awesome interviewer.
So, your challenge for today, I really want to see you put yourself in somebody else's shoes. With everything going on in the world, I want to see you put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Somebody that has nothing to do with you, somebody that looks nothing like you. I want to see you put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Do it.